Dr. Alan Grayson believed in the silence of space, a silence so profound it hummed. Every night he tuned his array of radio telescopes towards the vast expanse, listening to the cosmic radiation whispers, the hiss and crackle of distant stars, the faint echoes of the Big Bang. These were the sounds of a universe in perpetual motion. They were the sounds of home to him. Grayson thrived in the solitude of his observatory, surrounded by blinking monitors and the rhythmic beeping of his instruments. Tonight, however, the silence would be broken. It was 3:13 a.m. when the signal first pierced the static. A sharp, high-pitched tone, alien to the symphony of space. Grayson sat bolt upright, his hand instinctively reaching for the volume dial. He had never encountered anything like it. This wasn't the random noise of a pulsar or the fading echo of a supernova. This was deliberate. This was a transmission. Grayson worked quickly, his fingers dancing across the control panel. He isolated the signal, filtering out the background noise of the cosmos. The tone grew clearer, sharper, resolving into a series of rhythmic bursts. His heart hammered in his chest as he recognized the pattern. It was Morse code. A chill ran down his spine as he translated the message, each dot and dash sending shivers down his spine. It was a single word, repeated over and over again. Grayson, Grayson, Grayson. Panic welled up in his throat. Who could be sending this? And how did they know his name? The signal, he discovered, was coming from Earth's orbit. Specifically, from the decommissioned Nova 9 orbital station. Nova 9 had been abandoned for a decade, a ghost ship orbiting silently above them, or so they thought. A cold dread settled in Grayson's stomach. Something was terribly wrong. Nova 9 had been a marvel of engineering, a shining testament to humanity's reach for the stars. Now, it was a tomb, its orbit slowly decaying. Grayson accessed the station's archived data, searching for any clue as to what happened to the crew or what could be transmitting from the derelict station. He found the final log transmission. The audio was garbled, distorted, but he could make out the panicked voices of the crew. They spoke of a presence on board, something that wasn't human, something that was mimicking their voices, their appearances. Then silence. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving Grayson with a growing sense of dread. Whatever happened to the crew of Nova 9, it was still there, and it knew his name. Grayson delved deeper into the archives, accessing the station's security feed. The images he found sent chills down his spine. The video was fragmented, but it was clear that something was terribly wrong. The crew, once vibrant and full of life, were now gaunt, their eyes hollowed out, their movements erratic. They moved with an unsettling fluidity, their voices echoing strangely through the empty corridors. Then, he found the last frame, a single image that made his blood run cold. It showed the station's main control room, bathed in the eerie red glow of emergency lighting. In the center of the room, a figure stood before the main console, its back to the camera. It was tall and slender, its limbs elongated and contorted at unnatural angles. As it turned, Grayson could just make out its face. It was a horrifying mockery of the human form, its features stretched and distorted into a grotesque grin. Then, the image flickered and died, leaving Grayson in horrified silence. Section 5. The Signal Intensifies. The signal from Nova 9 grew stronger with each passing hour. The voice that called his name became clearer, more insistent. It began to repeat his own words back to him, echoing his thoughts and fears as if reading his mind. Sleep became impossible. Grayson paced the confines of his observatory, his heart pounding in his chest. He tried to rationalize what he was experiencing, to find a logical explanation. Was it some kind of elaborate hoax, a cruel prank by a rival scientist? But who could have the technology to mimic his voice to access the derelict Nova 9 station? The more he considered it, the more impossible it seemed. He was dealing with something beyond his comprehension, something terrifying in its implications. The signal from Nova 9 wasn't just a message, it was an invitation. Section 6. Mimicry from orbit. At precisely 3:13 a.m. the signal from Nova 9 shifted again. The voice calling his name ceased. In its place, a high-pitched whine filled the air, a sound that seemed to vibrate deep within his bones. On the monitor displaying the live feed from his orbital telescope, Nova 9 shimmered into view. And then, the impossible happened. A figure appeared in the station's observation deck. It was Grayson, or rather it was an exact duplicate of Grayson, down to the smallest detail. It moved with the same nervous energy as the real Grayson, its eyes wide with fear, its mouth moving in silent pleas. It raised its hand, its fingers tracing the outline of the observation deck window. It was pointing directly at him. Section 7, Reentry. Terror gripped Grayson's heart. The signal from Nova 9, the voice, the image of his doppelganger, it was all too much. He stumbled back from his console, his mind reeling. He had to get out of there, he had to warn someone. But it was too late. As he watched in horror, the Nova 9 station began to glow a fiery red. Its orbit, once stable, was decaying rapidly. The station was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, and it was descending directly above his location. Section 8. Impact. The end came swiftly, brutally. The sky above Grayson's observatory blazed with light as the burning wreckage of Nova 9 tore through the atmosphere. The ground shook with the force of 1,000 earthquakes. Then, silence. A silence more profound than any Grayson had ever known. He had been spared, his observatory miraculously untouched by the disaster. But the image of his doppelganger, trapped within the doomed station, seared itself into his mind. He was alone, or so he thought. Section 9. The cycle continues. In the aftermath of the disaster, a lone figure emerged from the wreckage of Nova 9. It was Dr. Lorna Vex, a colleague of Grayson's, long thought lost in the station's demise. But her eyes held a strange, unsettling light, and her smile was cold and empty. She had been contacted, she had been invited, and now she had returned. The cycle, it seemed, was destined to repeat.